Everyone, filter in, find your seats. We're going to have a little intro from Mr. Stephen Hatfield of Oregon Outdoor Alliance, which if you are in the outdoor industry or want to be in Oregon, you might care what he has to say.
Thank you, Jenna. This is on, yep. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. We are very happy to be here. Again, my name's Stephen. I'm with the Oregon Outdoor Alliance. I'm a member of the board of directors. And there are several of us here in the midst tonight, including Meredith, who's sitting right here in the front. We are super happy to partner with Basecamp for this event. We're a sponsor for tonight. We helped bring the beer. We're also sponsoring this panel discussion, which you all are about to hear, which is going to be fantastic. I want to give you just a really quick overview of what we are, what we do, and how you can connect with us. There's a couple different ways. So we are the business alliance for the outdoor industry in Oregon. So we help outdoor industry brands connect. We build community and synergy around all of that. We host a series of networking events. We have chapters in Bend, down in Ashland, and here in Portland as well. We call these events Beer 30s because they started with a lot of synergy around the industry of brands connecting. And the idea was like, let's just meet at the brew pub and things will happen there. So that's how it started. We're doing events quarterly here in Portland. And the next one is 1 week from tonight. It is at Kiln, K-I-L-N, which is on the east side. It's a co-working space, I believe. And it starts at 5:30. And we would love to see you there. We haven't had an event since late last year. We sort of rebooted our format and we're getting ready to relaunch. So it's a good time to join us. Beyond building community and networking, we also work on advocacy issues around the state. We work with a lot of key partners to help elevate the industry and make sure that Oregon is a great state for outdoor businesses to thrive. So that is the short of it. We have a table out here tonight. We've been talking to folks all night. Come see us later. Again, we're super happy to be a part of this event and to do this with Basecamp. I'm going to hand it back over to Jenna. Oh, should I thank sponsors? Should probably thank our sponsors.
Always.
Yeah, Prosper Portland is our key Portland sponsor. I want to make sure to give acknowledgement there. We're really excited to be doing events with them as well. I think I'll leave it there just to keep the panel discussion going. So thank you, Jenna, and take it away.
Thank you. All right, so thank you all for coming. I'm just going to do a little spiel about Basecamp in case anyone doesn't know what we are. We are the largest, also obviously best community for the outdoor industry, hiring, for networking, generally speaking. We connect humans and jobs. And we have a newsletter, we have a community via Facebook, and we're launching a new job board soon, which we're really excited about. It is going to match folks behind the scenes. So it's going to be kind of like Tinder without the stupid swiping. And one of our big goals was to mitigate bias in the hiring process through that process by making sure hiring managers were surface the more important elements of your application. So that you could really stand out as a candidate for the things that mattered, like your skill sets and who you are and as an applicant. So look out for that soon. There's QR codes everywhere. Please scan those with your phones or go to basecampjobs.com. That is how you know when that's launching. If you are a job seeker or an employer, we would love to have you using that. There will be completely free access for that. There's ways you can pay us as well, but everyone will be able to access that for completely free, and we would love to have you join us there. This panel is really exciting because this was born. No, I think it's okay. Yeah, thank you. This panel called How I Broke In was born online. We just wanted folks telling other folks how they got their jobs. There's little tips and tricks. It's very aspirational. So very, very popular segment in our newsletter that we brought to life last year via panel. It went over really well, so we're doing it again. So we have some excellent panelists here who landed really cool jobs in the outdoor industry. They're going to tell you how they did that. At the end, you can raise your hand, ask some questions, and then after that, when it's done, they have graciously agreed to maybe stick around and chat with you live. So I'll ask that you hold all questions till the end. And we'll start with Emma.
Hi, everyone. It's weird being here. I just graduated and I was always in this classroom, so this is weird for me. But I am currently a product line coordinator at Keen Footwear, working on the performance team, mainly in our waterfront category.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jake Dixon. I am the Global Snow Category Manager for Smith Optics. Also graduated, but in 2021, so it's been a bit since I've been here.
Hey everyone, Pete Legassi. I work at Columbia Sportswear, running product for the licensing team. Again, an SPM grad, class of 22, so it's good to be back.
Hi, I'm Andrea Kelly. I'm CEO and founder of Make Plus Equal, which is a consultancy firm here in Portland that specializes in helping brands become more size inclusive. I'm a little bit older than most of the people on the panel, so I have a history of working for Nike, DC Shoes down in California, and then my last full-time job in corporate was with Columbia Sportswear, which I left a year ago to launch this thing.
Hey, how's it going? Nick, Vincent Haler. I'm an account manager at Nemo Design. We're a brand design agency located here in Portland, Oregon. I did not go here, but I'm stoked to be here. Thank you.
You're an honorary member now.
Okay. So Emma's just going to tell us a little bit about her journey, and we prepped for this call, so I know that these are all really good. So just go ahead.
All right, so a little bit about me. I am originally from the East Coast, and I got my undergrad degree in exercise science from the University of Scranton. But during my time there, I realized that I really wanted to get into product. I ran track and cross country all 4 years, but I was hurt all 4 years. So that got me really interested in footwear. I had to look at it more than just the color, and I had to actually know what it did for me. So that definitely kickstarted my interest in product. So I was like, all right, how do I get into this world? Absolutely no idea. So I literally moved to Oregon on a whim. I started this program, moved here 2 days before orientation, and I was like, all right, we're just gonna go for it. Never been here, never been away from home. It was one of the best experiences I ever did. I just kind of took the leap, and now I absolutely love it. So then during the time, I ended up interning at Keen Footwear over the summer. So last summer, I was working on Trailhead, got to work on some really cool product that I'm really excited that it's going to hit the market soon. But my start there was actually as a fit model. Got an email from a past alum hey, we're looking for people size 7 if you can just come for our sales meeting. So went to that, didn't really know of Keen, didn't really know of the product. Went to the meeting, got to play dress up basically and show off the shoes while the PLMs were presenting it. So that kind of turned into this impromptu networking opportunity. Got to share a little bit about me, got to meet a lot of people in the industry, just ask a ton of questions about what they do, about their product line. And then that internship turned into the product line coordinator role. So I've been there for a couple months now, and then moved over to Waterfront and still learning a ton every single day. Like I said, graduated 2 weeks ago, so definitely new. But my internship was a huge Kickstarter for me.
Awesome. So one thing I loved about Emma's story is that she used unexperience to launch a new opportunity. Fit modeling is something that comes up in the Facebook group all the time, just very randomly. That's one of those roles that come up in the the Facebook group. And so if you're not in that community, make sure you're joining in and kind of looking out for those roles. And if you do get access to someone at a brand that you want to work for, say, hey, here's who I am, here's what I want to do. Who should I talk to next?
Kick it off? Yeah. Okay. So how I broke into the industry, it might be a little bit of a bumpy story. When I go back to thinking about how I got into outdoors, adventures, sports, and things like that, parents weren't skiers, parents weren't snowboarders, hikers, anything like that. So I guess I'm first generational outdoor enthusiast. Originally from the East Coast, so things aren't much more than 3,500 feet of elevation out in Western New York, from Buffalo, New York specifically. And I always had an affiliation for products and outdoor sports and things that let people do the things that they love. But I think what was so interesting in thinking back of how I got to this point now is that I wasn't ever really sure what people are doing of what I do now, and I don't think it was adamantly clear of what people were doing. So Growing up, I always thought, okay, well, I'm going to get in the outdoor sports world. I did an undergraduate degree at the University of Buffalo in marketing and communications. I thought, oh, I'll be a videographer and photographer. I'll get out there and I'll ski and snowboard with the best of the best. But that wasn't as close as to product as I wanted to be. And again, I asked myself, like, how do I get to make product? Like, what are these people? And then lo and behold, I actually had a friend who was in this program who I grew up with. And she told me, like, there's jobs where people are product designers, product developers. So I Googled that, and then I read through the job descriptions that some that popped up, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I applied to a bunch of jobs, and I never heard back a bunch of times. And I thought I had the skills, and I thought I had all the passions that I needed to do that. But I never really got the opportunity to talk to anybody about it. So I really kind of had to look at myself and kind of take a hard look in the mirror and understand what do I need to do to actually get into the industry. And I found this program, and that kind of was giving me the hard skills that I needed to do that, but also wanted to make sure that I was networking and then gaining the skills that I thought I could do on the other side as well. Basically, just needed to create a brand for myself. And when I had that moment to really convince somebody that I could do this, that they would take the leap of faith. Because when I applied for my first job after graduating as the helmet product line manager for Smith, I really had to make that convincing moment, because I didn't have 2 to 3 years experience as a product line manager, but I had a lot of experience wearing helmets and doing other things in the outdoor industry. And I really had a great brand for myself, thanks to all the great instructors in the program that helped me do that. So that looks like a website, or your resume connects to your website. You have your own font, your design, you did all this and that, utilizing all of the things that we learned in the program in terms of like the products that we worked on. And I really kind of convinced somebody that I could do it, and they brought me on. And then a couple of years later, I moved up into the snow category management role, and I'm super excited to be here to kind of share some of those insights, because it was a bit of a bumpy journey for sure. I mean, I have running documents of everybody that I reached out to, and nobody replied. Some people did, some people left me hanging. But those moments when I did get the connections and I was able to go get the coffee with somebody, I made sure that it was a really genuine connection and that they remembered me. And when you do get those moments, to just jump on them, like name drop people when you get into those interview moments. Like, it sounds, not great, but like, we're all here networking. And if you get those names, like, bring those up, and those connections, when you make the genuine ones, they really kind of matter when you're in those big moments, for sure.
Yeah, what we loved about Jake's story was that he communicated his value even though he was transitioning from outside of the industry. And so building the website, or really taking the descriptions from that job description and understanding, okay, they want this. If you see a word in a job description twice, if you see it 3 times, really pay attention. But if you see it twice, really pay attention to that and make sure you're describing how you know you can do that job within that resume. I love to use a cover letter. I think cover letters are amazing. Some people disagree with me, but I think it's the opportunity for you to bridge the gap between your resume, especially if you don't have paid experience for a role that you're trying to get. That cover letter is the way that you can help that recruiter or hiring manager make that leap, because they don't know you. They don't have the creativity to understand, okay, well, how did that experience apply to this job? So the cover letters that I like to see are, here's exactly how I know I can do this role. Here are examples of it. The second paragraph can be, hey, here's some of the things that I might be missing, but here is my plan to shore up my skills in this area. Here's what I'm doing. I am a lifelong learner. I'm going to figure it out, because they'll know. They'll see it if there's a big gap in your skills. Explain it. Address it and explain it. The third paragraph can be something like, here's how I'll enrich the role. You didn't even ask for this experience, but here's something really cool about me that will add to that. So Jake built a website, did a really cool job of that, stood out, mixed it with networking, and obviously is on the panel now. So he did a great job.
I could add one more thing kind of on top of that as well. When it comes to those things, kind of even being on the other side now, when you have those moments to put a cover letter into an application, if they have the box in there, that's great. Drop it in there, but also like show off your skills, combine a PDF, put your cover letter inside your resume, and then put your 30, 60, 90-day plan in there, everything else, and then throw that into that email of that person you met, and make it really easy for them to just hit preview and scroll through it on their computer, because somebody might not read it when it goes through the hiring manager kind of piece like that, or any software or something like that. But if you do include that into an email of a person that you met, they probably will pop that open and read it. But maybe if you make it too hard for them and have multiple multiple messages or something, they might not. Basically, just make it easy for them, for sure.
All right. So my entry into the outdoor industry was actually kind of a second career. So I had started in the banking and finance world. I was a finance grad out of undergrad, and I did that for a long time. And it was something that I thought I wanted to do. Eventually, you started to get a little burnt out and realizing that, I wasn't really happy with the work that I was doing. I wasn't fulfilled. And so I started to think about how I could get that as part of my life. And it really hit home for me when I tried to get the most basic entry of all entry level finance analyst job, but it was at LL Bean. So I was in Boston on the East Coast, and it was close. I didn't get a call back. I didn't get an email back. I got nothing. But just submitting that application for me, I was stoked because I knew it was an opportunity to be in the space that I wanted to be. So I had always grown up skiing and hiking, and every hobby that requires you to purchase all of the equipment, I was all about. So like I got a fly fishing rod and the waders and the boots, and I did everything. But so I kicked off this journey of how do I get into this space, and realizing that I had a good amount of experience, just not really the right experience. So like these two, I found the SPM program completely by chance. It was just an online ad that I was reading an article and clicked on the side, and it looked like it would provide me with the skills that I needed, the knowledge that I needed. But the biggest thing for me was the network. Being here in Portland, being in the area where the outdoor industry is so prevalent, made a ton of sense to me. So I made that leap. I moved across the country to join this program. And throughout my time in school, the classroom was great because you learned the hard skills. You learned how to speak the language. You learned how to kind of connect with people in the industry. I focused on how to build my resume to show people that, hey, I've got experience doing something else. This is where I want to go. And so I spent time getting my hands on product. I think, Jake, you did this as well. I took a part-time job at ON3P, a ski company in town here, literally just making skis. It was menial work. It was hours just standing on your feet, doing manual labor, but it was something that I enjoyed and something that I could use to show, like, I'm interested in this space. I'm building the skills to succeed in this space. So that was one of the things that I did, and trying to translate prior experience to a new industry was difficult. But there's always ways that you can pull things out of your experience that match up to the jobs that you want to do. So putting that on paper was going to be the best way for me to try and get in front of some of these hiring managers. But it's not the only thing. So the networking is a huge piece of it. And I'll be straight with everybody. I hate networking. It is like my most uncomfortable thing that I do. But it's so, so valuable. I got my job at Columbia from an SPM connection, Shelly, who used to run the program. She set me up with one person, a purely informational interview, asked a bunch of questions. What is it that you do? How do you like working at Columbia? And just kind of showed the interest in their life and in their story. And she passed me on to another Columbia employee. So I spoke with them, and they passed me on to another Columbia employee. So this was an ongoing process that one person led to the next, that led to the next. And eventually I was speaking to somebody who had just changed jobs within Columbia. And so their role was open. and they connect me with the hiring manager. So it's a roundabout way. It doesn't always work that way, but it's so important to get out and talk to people, especially if you have a company in mind or an area in mind, to just find as many connections as you can and follow up with them. Ask for another connection so you can learn more about what other people do. So once I had connected with this hiring manager, my first job at Columbia was on the e-com team as an assistant buyer, which wasn't really where I had thought I would land coming out of this program with a master's degree, but it was something that got me in the door. And within 2 years, which actually I started at Columbia 2 years ago today, I have transitioned into a different role as a senior merchandiser on the licensing team. So I deal with product every day. I work with 10 different licensing vendors on a couple different categories, just working, and I have the opportunity to impact the products that we sell. And it's really been fulfilling. It's been a great, not only career change, but a lifestyle change for me to come out to a different part of the country and kind of set down roots here. So yeah, it was really great. I think the two big takeaways for me were getting out of your comfort zone and doing the work when you're trying to network. I know it kind of sounds really lame when people ask for advice and you just say, "Oh, network," because it's not that easy, but it can work. And then the other thing is trying to make sure your resume isn't just a list of things you've done. You want to be able to use that tool to show people what you can do and what you've learned from the things that you've done. So there's a lot of different ways you can spin what may be just some random job you had. There's a way you can spin it to match a job description or match a company that you're interested in. And for any of the SPM students here, use the resources that you have in this program, whether that's faculty, whether that's alums. Everyone who I've ever talked to that's come through this program has been very helpful and very willing to give their time and help you along the way, because a lot of us wouldn't be where we are if we didn't have that help too. So that's just my story.
Yeah, Pete is like networking team captain, and it's true what you said. Like, networking is so weird and it's awkward, and I think a lot of folks think everyone else knows what they're doing, and no, that networking is a muscle like everything else. And it's really important to remember that when you are in an event like this, it can feel weird, but everyone else is here to talk to a stranger. So do not worry about walking up to someone and being like, "Hey, what brought you to this event?" Or like, "I like your cool jumpsuit," or "Hey, like, nice to meet you. Here's who I am." They're not going to be like, "Ew." They're going to say, "Great," and they're going to answer your question, and they're here for the same purpose. So really, really step into that power and remember that it will become less and less weird as you do it. I am someone that has massive social anxiety, and I've made networking my job. So with enough practice, you can really become kind of a little bit good at it. And networking can happen a lot of ways as well. You're doing it right now, so congrats to everyone that showed up to this event. It's really hard just to walk into a room like this, especially if you don't know anyone, but also you can do this online. You can go into the Basecamp community and do an intro and say, "Here's who I am and here's what I want to do, and I would love help." You can volunteer for an organization that solves problems that resonate with you, and you can just meet people organically. You can get a job in retail, in the outdoor industry, or you can do something in the sphere and you can talk to people. You can go perform your favorite outdoor activity and meet new friends. When I'm networking, I usually try to just make friends. When people like you, they usually want to work with you. So there's two ways to do it. You can either just kind of make new friends and never talk about work at all, and then people will just sort of remember you. Or you can be very specific and say, "Hey, I need help with this. I want to do X, Y, and Z. Do you know anyone?" And like Pete said, if you get a chance to network, ask that person very explicitly, "Who else should I talk to? Can you please make an introduction to them?" So be leveraging it.
Okay, so I have 3 takeaways for you. The first takeaway is there's more than one way in. The second takeaway is you're going to hit roadblocks, and it's actually not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And then the third thing, which these guys keep telling you, is network your face off. So I'm not going to talk a lot about my current business because I'll talk for 45 minutes. I can't do that. But I will tell you, as a small business owner who owns a consultancy, every contract I've gotten in my first year is by word of mouth from people that I know from the industry. I've been in this forever, and networking still matters. So we'll come back to all that. Let me tell you how I got in. For those of you who are in the SPM program, awesome. That didn't exist in my day. I didn't even know that I wanted to be on the outdoor industry. I grew up in Southern California. I was at the beach all the time. I came up here for school, started doing all the outdoor things. But I came out of school with a psychology degree, and I worked for a software company. And I was super nerdy with social skills and decided I really liked doing training. And I worked for a software training company. We had people who would come in, companies would send their new hires in to learn how to do things like WordPerfect, which none of you know what it is. But pivot tables, yay, they're my people. Like pivot table. So people would come in to see us, but also we would do a lot of contracts with other corporations. So like I was out on the road all the time working for Allstate. I knew nothing about claims, but went in, learned their systems, trained their people on it. That's what I did. And somewhere along the line, after doing that for a few years, a coworker of mine was contacted by a friend of his, hey, networking, who had just started at Nike, and Nike was hiring a systems trainer. He wasn't interested in it. He told me about it. All of a sudden, I work for Nike. Nothing about apparel. I knew nothing about apparel except for all the hours that I spent online at rei.com because I was mountain climbing and I wanted to know what the best blah, blah, blah is and what the tent. So like I had the gear mindset like all of these people did, but I didn't know anything about apparel development, none of that stuff. So I spent the first year at Nike learning all their systems. And then I trained product line managers how to build bills of materials in their proprietary software. I taught product line managers how to set up line plans in their proprietary software. And in doing that, first of all, I got to meet everybody in every department, which meant I knew every manager, which meant I knew how the systems work, which meant I knew how the business worked, with no real plan of where I was heading. But when a position opened up in ACG, which back then was super technical outdoor gear, and I was like, oh my God, I want this job. I have no idea how to be a product developer. But I approached the manager who I already knew from the job that I was doing, networking, and said, hey, I'm super interested in this. I'm very engaged in the outdoors. I have lots of thoughts and ideas as a wear tester and a consumer. I have no idea how to make product. And she said, right, but what you do know is all of our tools and how the business works. I can teach you how to make a jacket. She said, the stuff that you know, I can't teach. She said, we hire people from Adidas all the time, great developers. They don't get how we work. You get how we work. I can teach you all the other stuff. So the first thing that I'm going to tell you is if you don't get in the front door, go work in product ops. You get so much exposure to how the business works that is absolutely invaluable that anybody's going to want to hire you. So there's the first piece of it. So I worked in Nike ACG for 5 years. I then moved down to Southern California and made outerwear for DC Shoes for 5 years. Got that job because when I resigned at Nike, the designer that we brought in at ACG had just left DC Shoes and said, hey, you should call my old boss, networking. Hey, look at that. So I worked for 5 years at DC Shoes as a product developer, moved back to Portland, talked to my old boss at Nike and said, what do you got? She connected me with somebody at Columbia, and they'd been looking for a senior developer for months, and we're like, where have you been all of our lives? Great. Ended up taking the job there and did another 3 years of product development with Columbia. And after about 15 years of product development, I'm like, I'm ready for something new. What's merchandising look like? And I had a great relationship with my merchandising team. I've been working with them for years. And the senior merchant got promoted to the next position up and was backfilling his position. So here I was again looking at a job that I was not qualified to do. I was up against a bunch of merchandisers. So I went back to one of the career coaches, somebody that I knew from Nike, and said, hey, so I'm thinking about changing lanes. I've been doing this forever. I want to move into merchandising. What do you think? And he was like, oh, people don't do that. Like they're very different career paths. People don't change lanes. And I was like, but I did. And I did it when I worked for you. Like I went from ops It's a product. So if I don't think there's a wall, there's not a wall. And he was like, okay, you're right. So then the conversation turned to transferable skills, which is what we're all talking about. What do I know that I can use as value to contribute to this team? So I ended up getting the job over experienced merchandisers. Because if there's anybody who can build a product that hits margin, it's the girl who's been working for the factories for 15 years, right? I brought this knowledge and this experience that enriched the team that I was on. So I am a big fan of left turns and side quests, and I know I had a guy who was working for me as a merchandiser, and young, smart, doing great, wanted a promotion. There weren't spots for it. Like, he was just stagnant, and he was super frustrated. And oddly enough, it was a buying position at Columbia for ecom. And I said, why don't you go take that job? And he said, why would I do that? I don't want to be on ecom. I want to be here. And I'm like, well, you're not moving. Why don't you go over there? Why don't you meet some new people? Why don't you learn some new skills? Why don't you find out more about the business and then come back and say, how you like me now? There's so much value in doing things that aren't necessarily on the exact path that you think you're on. And I firmly believe that those left turns and side quests is where your confidence comes from, and it's where your experience comes from. It's these learnings that you hadn't planned on that you get to keep in your pocket and use to help you further down the road. So I did merchandising forever, then I left. If you want to hear all of that story, come see me at the table. I'll tell you about what I'm doing now. But I really do believe that, like, going off the beaten path is great. I think it's important. I think it gives you a broader sense. It gives you more value to the teams you might be working with. And again, I can't say it more than that. We give face off. Like, if you all don't leave with my name before we go, we're gonna have words. Like, that's what you're all here for. So meet people, shake hands, tell them funny stories, and like Jenna said, we're all here doing that. So it's not like you're the weird one talking to everybody. We're all the weird ones talking to everybody. That's the plan. So that's my story.
Yeah, I love your story, Andrea. The side quests. There's so much beauty in the pivot, and most folks I know would say they were never fully ready to take on the role that they took on. Like, you're never going to, if you have all of the qualifications for a job, like, you are overqualified for that job. So if you have around 75%, apply. Definitely apply. I have launched an aerospace accelerator. I have been a scientific communicator, and now I am a tech founder. And I have not been qualified for any of those roles. But I'm curious and I'm capable, and I know that I could figure it out. So I've been great at all of my jobs. And if something is pulling your energy, if it's exciting you, do that thing.
I second that. Yeah. I still don't think I've mastered all the skills on that job application. So, yeah, much like the rest of this panel, I started off in an entirely different industry. I went to school at the Berklee College of Music and was super just set on, being involved in music. I want to be a producer. Graduated from school, moved back to Hawaii and worked at a recording studio there. Was producing for a while, and after about 8 years of just dedicating your whole life to music, I also started to feel burnt out on it. It was a passion of mine, which is super weird. I love music. It's been my whole life. And then one day driving home from work, I'm like, I can't even listen to music right now. This is crazy. Like, I need to figure this out. Like, and you go to school for something and you're like, I'm locked in. Like, this is it. I'm doing this forever. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. Luckily, in school, I'd found someone who I kind of called a mentor. So I kind of called him up and expressed that to him and was just like, hey, man, I'm feeling stuck. I don't know what to do career-wise. He wasn't even in the music industry. He was in the outdoor industry, and we kind of shared that passion as well, and that's how we became friends when I was over in Boston. I grew up surfing, skating, and snowboarding, and just anything outdoors that I could get my hands on. I loved it. But obviously, music was my main passion. And he kind of reminded me of that. He's like, hey, man, you have so many other things that you like to do, and you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket. And it's, you're not stuck in something for the rest of your life just because you went to school for it. there's ways to kind of branch out into other industries. And it was kind of nice to hear that. I was kind of relieved. And, so it was like, all right, what's my next step? Help me with my plan of action to kind of find what I want to do. And while I was going to school in Boston, I was working part-time at REI, and I loved it. I love to kind of just like dive into the brands and learn all about the products. And one of the main things I liked the most is we'd have reps come through, and I would like talk their ear off, and it was just, I wanted to learn everything about all of their products. And just I also just wanted to be their friend and learn how to do like a new activity or a new sport or new climbing or fishing or whatever it was. I found myself hanging out with all of these reps, and to me it was like, yeah, cool, I got a really rad friend, and Jerry's got the hookup on surfboards, so like this is awesome. I never saw it as a job opportunity or something that I could do. And Matt reminded me, my mentor was like, hey man, you always hit it off with those reps, you always love so much, love to know more about brands, love to know more about products, like maybe there's something in that for you. And I was like, yeah, totally, like I think you're right. Like I love the outdoors. I want to make this maybe, a career out of this. And I didn't directly have the technical skills to jump right into where I am now in the brand design world. And someone told me once, like, if you ever want to learn a bunch of skills, a lot of technical skills, like go work at an agency, specifically a small agency, like where you have to wear a lot of hats. And so that's what I did. I found the first marketing agency that I could that would take me, and wore a lot of different hats, found my way into a marketing coordinator role and eventually an account manager role. And after about 3 years at that first agency, I was like, all right, cool. Now it's time to kind of specialize and lean more into that outdoor world. And so I started putting feelers out there. I had a couple friends that were working in the industry. One friend specifically was working at Icon Pass. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like, that could be cool. Like, you guys hiring? He's like, no, we're not hiring. But I know a lot of people in the industry. I'll put some feelers out there for you. And went back to my mentor. I was like, hey, I'm looking to get back into the outdoor industry. Like, you've inspired me. And he's like, cool. He's like, but make sure you find exactly what you want to do. Like, don't just jump at the first thing. Find the thing that fits most for you. And so through a lot of searching and a lot of opportunities that came my way, I finally found, or they found me actually one day. I logged into LinkedIn like I did every day, and I had a message saying like, hey, we were recommended from so-and-so from Icon Pass. They're one of our largest clients, and you come really recommended. And so, it was kind of we were mutually feeling each other out, and ultimately like culture fit was a huge thing for me. And, here I am now working at Nemo Design. But from that, when I received that message, it wasn't simply just like, oh, cool. You're in the application pool. They're like, hey, we're going to have this first round of interviews. Here's these date ranges that were available. And I chose the soonest date. I was like, yep, I want to, I'm eager. I want this job. I've done so much research on this place. They're so rad. Like, I want to work there so bad. And I just let that be known. I was like, yeah, no, I'm the person. Like, I'm the person for the job. Like, and so, second round came through. I did the same thing. And then they're like, oh, we're going on vacation for like 3 weeks. I'm like, dang it. Like, I thought I was going to start working there tomorrow. All good. Anyway, eventually the owner of the company hit me up and was like, hey, we'd love to have you come by the shop one day and just kind of see what we do and how it works here. And I showed up the very next day. I like walked through the door and I was like, what's up? Kind of acted like I worked there already. And like, it's such a cool office. Like, we have skate ramps all over the place, and there's food in the kitchen always, and drinks and stuff. And I just made myself at home and like bothered everybody there and let them know that I wanted to be there super bad. And a day later, I was hit up and they're like, hey, like, we want to offer you the job. We also realize we haven't seen a resume though, so like, we want to make sure you have the skills to kind of back up that. So gave them a resume. Thank goodness it worked out. And yeah. I'm here working at Nemo Design, getting to work with a bunch of cool brands, work with Smith, good times there. So yeah.
So Nick mentioned a mentor a bunch of times. Mentors are cheat codes for sure. And so if you can identify someone, use Basecamp, use LinkedIn, that has achieved the job that you want to achieve, send them a message and see if you can maybe chat with them. And one thing about getting a mentor that's really important is make sure that you're very clear about what you want. Do you want a mentor that helps you create a career path? Do you want a mentor that just kind of gives you help once a month? Like, be very clear about what you want from them, the tempo that you're asking for, and make that ask very clear. But the other thing about Nick that I wanted to point out is that he did some networking that paid off later. That Icon Pass Connect paid off later. Someone knew what he did, and when it was relevant, they mentioned his name, and it paid off. So sometimes you're networking not for your next job, but your next job after that. And so if it feels like it's not working, it might still be working, and you're just not quite there yet. So keep going. We have time for questions. So, okay, you're ready. Right here, we have someone.
Hi. There's been a lot of talking. I can't remember names, but for the nice woman who runs her own plus size consultancy, I was very curious, like, what it's like. You know, I know you said a lot of your connections with companies have been through word of mouth, right? But I'm very curious what your experience has been like in getting companies to actually implement your ideology behind product lines and things along those lines, because it can be very financially difficult for companies. Maybe it's just like not an easy transition for them. So I'm really just kind of curious what that process has been like for you.
Sure. So I can first of all say it's been a year. So the range and the information I have is pretty limited, but of the brands that I have been working with so far, most of them have either already been in the process of starting down this road and need help. So True Gear is one of the brands here in Portland. They actually reached out to me when I was at Columbia and wanted help. And I'm like, I can't do that now because there's conflict of interest. Here's Pattern Maker. They went and started making their product. And by the time I left Columbia, they're like, great, we need your help with marketing. So they were already on the path, which is great. Other brands were just getting started, but they'd already made the decision. They'd already done the math. They'd already figured out that it was important to them. And those are the brands that I typically work with because the sell it's tough. You're right. Like, it's a big commitment. And it's not something you just kind of throw in. It's, running a plus size side of the business is an entire separate business unit that has to be treated the same as the rest of your business. You still have to look at your margins. You still have to educate your staff. You still have to market. It's the same thing. It's just different sizes. So I haven't yet run into brands that need the sell on doing it, but I've got all the data behind it. I've been talking about it for 15 years about why it's important. And by the way, you're leaving all this money on the table. Don't you want to be the one to take it, So I've got all the facts and the figures to help them get to that point. But up until this point, brands have already made the decision. They just need the help on how to get it going. Sure. My name's Andrea, by the way.
I think at the back there's a question. Thank you, Brady.
So I have a question because my experience talk about side quests. I went to school for civil engineering originally, and now I'm a freelance photographer. But what I'm curious about transitioning from freelance to something a little more full time, or I guess something a little more stable than freelance generally. I know not everyone up here and probably has exactly relevant, helpful, but I guess could provide advice. How do you get the attention of people that can't? Because I hate talking about my own work personally. I just do it. Give me a camera and I'll take pictures. I'm indiscriminate in terms of like subject or whatever. But I can't really convince people to get on board with my own work. So I'm curious how, or what the expectation of someone coming from the creative side looking to become more full-time with brands, outdoor brands, stuff like that, how to do that.
Nick, do you have any insight there?
Yeah, definitely. We work with a lot of different photographers, and when it comes down to a specific shoot that we're working on, we're looking for someone that specializes in that. So if you have a pretty general approach to what you're doing in photography, it's a little harder to see where you excel, right? So in the snow space, we have a few people that excel in that space, and these people capture, aerialists really well, and then there's people who capture lifestyle photography really well. So it's just kind of finding your niche and really leaning into that.
Any other questions for the panel? Yep, right in the middle here.
I can just talk. I'm okay.
Oh, you can. Okay.
So, my name's Sheridan. And my question to the 6 of you, including the panelist instructor. So, I noticed that all of you have mentioned that you have more STEM background, whether it's been including like the product design, the product development, and so my question is, for those that are more honed into their soft skills, whether it's in the HR department, how do we get into the outdoor workplace when you're more leaning towards, like, you've been the manager, you've led people, you've done conflict resolution, but as far as like having any product design experience, like that's not your niche. So that is my question to whoever wants to answer it.
I would love Pete to answer this. Do you feel comfortable doing that?
Yeah, so let me just kind of clarify. So you are looking for how to get into companies that, to understand your question, if you're talking about the HR space, you don't necessarily need the product experience or the development or that kind of slant to break in. Is that kind of where you're headed?
I guess it's kind of twofold of like HR is one, and then just not STEM related jobs, like managing your people at the company.
Yeah. So a really helpful tool, I guess, to demonstrate that you have those skills. I'm just going to go back to your resume. Like there are ways to demonstrate that. Don't look at the skill exactly as your role that you have performed. Look at how it helped the company or how it helped you learn something. Or yeah, that's a tricky question. Thanks for letting me do this one.
So I will hop in, and I think when you are applying for a job, there's a reason that you feel like you can do that job. So kind of explain that. But you're talking about skills that are really important, like leadership. And a lot of folks don't actually ask for leadership or management experience, but it's something that will really catch their eye. My degree is in French. Like, I don't have a weird tech degree. Like, I have a degree in French and Canadian law. And then I got a master's in public administration. I use absolutely none of that. When I was going for my new roles, I said, hey, Olympic Committee, I have launched an aerospace accelerator, so I have experience with increasing levels of stress. I'm able to disseminate complex topics to wide varieties of people. I work very well with a large, diverse groups of folks. I can communicate like this, like this, like this. And I took those needs from the job description and I said, I know I can do that. Here's how. I did that in this capacity. Here's how I did that. But additionally, you're talking a lot about soft skills, and that's kind of the cover letter networking combo, because I also, I wanted to work at the Olympic Committee, so I went out for coffee with every single person I could that worked at the Olympic Committee. And then when I applied for that role, they were on my cover letter. And then the manager that hired me went to those people and they were like, yeah, she's cool. And then the manager was like, oh, okay, she's cool. And then they hired me. So they had that, 1-2 combo. And I was able to, in the interview, then talk about those soft skills and explain how that would make me a delight to work with. So I would say you don't need random technical skills unless it very clearly applies to the role. Root down in the soft skills that make you an excellent worker, that make sure that you're a lifelong learner, that showcase that you're capable of learning new things and applying those things, and that you've done that in the past.
Yeah, and I'll add to that now that I've heard you talk about it a little more. The resume is just one tool, and something that I found difficult was at times, if you're applying for jobs with just your resume, cover letter, or whatever, you don't really know where that goes, and you might not get the chance to sit in front of someone and explain the story behind it. So again, it goes back to the networking piece. Is that's your opportunity to kind of add some color to what's on the paper. So don't overlook that. And if you're having trouble gaining traction with the applications, find somebody at the company, maybe not the hiring manager, but somebody there to just talk with them and approach it as a, hey, I just want to know what you do. People like to talk about themselves, and then that kind of opens the door for you to explain to them, this is what I have been doing, and this is where I think I can go, and these are the skills that I have that'll help me get me there.
I'm actually in an interview process right now for a job that I really want. And I don't know anyone at the company, but I probably do have connections because I'm in the nonprofit animal space. So I was just wondering, do you think it would be beneficial for me to just see who the connections are and just still like reach out? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So
Just yes.
Just why not?
No, just yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because you want to vet that company too.
No, I don't. I guess because I'm like everyone's like to get the. I know. Okay, thank you.
I'd say if you're in the interview process already, you've done the hard part. So now, like something that I try to remind myself at times is, not only are you interviewing for the job, but you're also trying to figure out if it's the right fit for you. So talking to more people within the organization, maybe not about the job, so to speak, but about what the culture is like, or do they enjoy working there? Like that's just as valuable. So absolutely.
So you would say just message the people in the company and not, or like try, like on LinkedIn, or try to get like that intro from someone I know, or
Either one.
Either way.
Yeah. If you're gonna reach out to someone on LinkedIn, if you don't have a connection with them at all, you need to introduce yourself and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I would love 10 minutes of your time just to chat. A cold connect never really works. But if you do have a connection, a first or second, use that person, ask that person if you can drop their name. Like there's ways to do it for sure.
You could cold connect too. I think in this case, if you're saying, hey, I'm interviewing and with your company, and I would really like to know what your experience is. And I think that's actually a huge flex for people to realize that like you're the prize. There's no company that can function without the human resource that pushes their company forward. The workplace relationship should be equal and negotiable. Like workplaces cannot exist and create revenue without people. Humans are the difference. And that's why recruiters exist too, right? So you saying, hey, I'm vetting your this opportunity. I would love to know what your experience is in this company, and reaching out and just saying, you're like, yeah, can I have 10 minutes of your time? I just want to know what it's like here. They're very likely to answer that. And I would say if you have a company or have a connection and they can connect you, always do that. But if it does have to be cold, if that's the only option, I mean, don't self-eliminate ever. Always try, right?
Yeah, it's a really intense process. I already have done 2 videos and like emails and they laid it out, and it was like
that's a lot. I'd be doing some vetting. That's a long interview process. Yeah. Okay, I'd be asking some questions. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? There's a mic right behind you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. Andrea, I feel like you've lived many lives, and we did not even get into the story about how you started your own business, and I am a little bit curious to hear a little bit more about that. You were in the outdoors industry for over 15 years. At what point did you realize that you wanted to start your own company? And how does networking look like now that you're on the other side?
That's a lot of questions. I realized I wanted to start my own company probably around 2020, which was not the time to leave a corporate job and benefits. So I actually stayed put, which was actually smart because then my position evolved from the side hustle to the full-time hustle, which gave me even more time to learn even more about running the business, which was great. So, I mean, initially, so the impetus for me doing what I do is there was a study that came out in 2015 that stated that 67% of women in North America were plus-sized, which is the majority, which nobody was talking to. So I happened to be working for a company that already made plus sizes. So I didn't have to build it from the ground up. I just said, hey, can we turn up the heat? So that started in 2015. And in my mind, like, I'm in the right spot at the right place. Let's go. And like, just cranked it up for Columbia. But for me, I also knew that one brand wasn't the answer. Like, okay, what if I don't like the color they come out with? Then what? Oh, great. Outdoor Research has a plus size line now. Great. But the plus size model they picked isn't my body type. So now what? Most of you can shop in a million different places. I can count the brands that I can go to on one hand. So even though I loved what I was doing at Columbia and I loved my team and it was so great, I'm like, I got to do more. There have to be more brands for more people to choose from. And I knew that if I stayed under Columbia's roof, I was really limited in what I could do. I wrote it out through till I wrote it out 3 more years, which again, amazing. It gave me the opportunity to talk to marketing team and the in-store teams, and I got to really branch out with the whole go-to-market piece of it rather than just focusing on product. And after that, I'm like, okay, it's time. Like, I have all of this knowledge now. I was actually really afraid of not launching in 2020 because I was afraid I was going to miss the wave, because brands were starting to do it. And oh my God, I missed nothing. Like, yes, brands are coming, but it's taking forever. And there are still so many brands that need help. So, like I said, these roadblocks come for a reason, right? I was going to go and I didn't, but then I learned a whole bunch more by staying. And I think by waiting until 2023 to launch, I just had a whole lot more to offer. And then from a networking point of view, it's crazy. I mean, I can't say this enough. Like I said, most of the leads I've had have come from people I knew. Like, a bunch of people from Columbia left, and guess what? They all work somewhere else. And most of them happen to work in the industry that I still want to be a part of. So it's a connection of a connection. Even at Columbia, we were talking to one of our sales reps was working with one of the stores, and I was going to do a project with them. And then I resigned, but stayed in touch with that company. Well, then she left, and now she's at another company. So like, it just keeps, you guys are too young to know the Breck commercial. Where's my guy in the back? And so on and so on and so on. Like, Google that Herbal Essence shampoo commercial. To me, I will tell you, I actually took a class through Basecamp called the Freelancer Boot Camp, which was amazing. And I was part of a cohort of 10 women total. And a lot of the conversation, they were fairly new at what they were doing, but they were like, how do you market yourself and how do you get people? And I'm like, I've been in the industry for like 25 years. I know a bunch of people. And they were like, oh. So like I said, like, I know people who know people who know people. So start now. And it's just going to like ad infinitum, grow and grow and grow until you just have a world of connections. Yeah, you're welcome.
State your purpose out loud as often as you can.
Yes.
Because the more you say it out loud, the more people, you never know who's listening, and you never know who's going to remember it and say your name in the right room at the right time. So very clearly state your purpose. Say it out loud as much and as often as you can. Digitally,
and fight for it if you
it.
get pushback. I mean, no is not final. No is like, all right, I'm going to come back tomorrow. All right, I'm going to ask you a different way. Why did you? Where's the resistance? Okay, let me see what we can do about that. But I mean, there were tons of times that I was told no at Columbia. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ask you in 6 months. You might be in a better mood next time. Okay. And I got told, and then I went and talked to my manager and said, this is not what I want to be doing. Can we do some? Yes. You got to push. If it's something you believe in, just keep pushing. It'll happen.
Failure is the process. Failure is data. The process is failing until you succeed. So don't take a no as a no. Take a no as just like Andrea said, keep going. Just believe in yourself. Last question.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. So, hi, I'm Sochi. I recently graduated from Oregon State University with my Bachelor of Science in Apparel Design, but I have a little bit of not a little bit of a different life path. So before I started at Oregon State University, I was a wildland firefighter for 2 summers. And so I had 2 kids prior going into the apparel design program within the College of Business. And so I kind of went into it like I love sewing, right? And that's all I wanted to spend my time doing while I was in firefighting. And so when I went into the College of Business with the apparel design program, I learned all these classes, and then I came to my senior collection, which was in last year this time, spring of 2023. But right now I'm at a point where it's like, okay, I have kids and networking is super important. And so I'm feeling a little discouraged with learning how to balance the in-person networking with the online networking. And so as I'm approaching this, life path, not setting my expectations, oh, I'm going to be this designer at this one place. It's more of like, I'm open, I'm excited, I'm passionate about designing and actually creating clothing for women, postpartum, maternity wear in the outdoors, and also plus size as well. And so I really am looking forward to catering to that market. But also right now, building my network, I just would like to know what is an appropriate or friendly, fair amount when I'm reaching out online. Is 30 minutes too much to set a Zoom call? Because I live 2 hours from here. So when I come to these events, I'm obviously really nervous. I haven't really socialized in a while. So I just want to see what's a respectable amount of time when I'm reaching out. Hey, is 30 minutes too much? Is an hour too long? Where do you guys feel with somebody who's maybe not in person so much, but utilizing the virtual network? That's kind of where I'm at. So I would like some feedback if it's possible.
First of all, beautiful networking right here,
Well
right now.
done.
Congrats on that. So now everyone knows that you want to design clothing for women, and that's gorgeous. I love a 30-minute meeting. If you ask me for 15 minutes, I like that even more. I'll probably give you 30, but I think
I was going to say 20.
yeah.
And if they want to go longer, they will go longer with you. Yeah. And then I think, and it also depends too. It depends on if it's cold call or like a warm call, you sort of know them. If you have had more contact or you have a lot more in common with them, I wouldn't throw down an hour, but I might throw down 45 minutes. Give them time to get out, go to the bathroom, do whatever they have to do. I think an hour is definitely too much.
I don't ever do an hour meeting anymore with anybody. Yeah. Literally, if I'm asking them for money, I won't even do an hour with them. Yeah. But one way to get a meeting, what I would love for you to do is a lot of research on a person that you're trying to get a meeting with. And so go to their LinkedIn or to, if they have a portfolio, see if they have any existing media, if they've been on a podcast or if they've been quoted in an article, see what they've been talking about online, consume what they've done, and then reference that and tell them exactly why you want to talk to them so that it's not just, I get messages all the time being like, hey, I'd like to learn about what you've done. And I'm like, okay, well, it's all over. So what exactly do you want to know? So ask a very specific question that showcases you've done your research, and that's going to, I think, be a bit more fruitful as well. But not 60 minutes is no.
I'd say too, don't shy away from the virtual networking. I think that's a really, really great tool. I prefer that sometimes just because in the flow of my day, I'll have 30 minutes for sure, but I might not have the 15 to get somewhere and then the 15 to come back. So it can be really helpful on the other end of it too. Even if you can fit it into your schedule, chances are they can fit it into theirs. But yeah, 30 minutes is the sweet spot. You could even say might not take the whole time, but blocked off 30, and no one's gonna bat an eye at that really.
That's time, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming. Thank you to our panelists.